Alrighty, guys. Welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I'm your host, Patrick Vallejos. We are broadcasting to the world live from Phoenix, Arizona. Today we are diving into the Abby and Libby case, and we are keeping you up to date on the trial process. This is day 2 of jury selection. And we got a lot to cover, guys. A lot of bombshell information today. The latest update I have as far as the jury came from Kit Hanley TV, or at Kit Hanley TV. It says here 3 jurors have been bounced. Number of jurors is now at 11. A mom with childcare issues, a professor with diabetic issues, working to confirm why the 3rd juror was bounced. So that was the latest. Also, we have a report coming out of Fox 59 that's titled Defense Claims Hair Found with Victim Didn't Match Richard Allen. And another report coming out of Twitter from Angela. Is it Ganote? I never know if I'm saying that right. Says breaking. Richard Allen's defense attorneys say hair found in Abby Williams' hand does not match Richard Allen's DNA. That has never been made public before, but during our interview with the sheriff days after the murder, he told me on live TV they had DNA. And we've talked about that. If they had Richard Allen's DNA, we would have heard about it. We did a whole live stream about that. So we haven't shied away from that. But I remember, guys, I told you that. I told you that if they have DNA at the crime scene, it does not match Richard Allen, because they would have definitely mentioned it to Richard Allen during his interview, during his interrogation, because they want to elicit a confession. So you want to give all your bombshell information right there and then to the accused to try to get that confession out of them, to overwhelm them. Law enforcement then asked us to remove that information from our website, saying the sheriff was speaking without full knowledge. So I don't know what this means. It's coming from the defense team. People are going to spin it, in whichever way benefits their narrative. But we will go ahead and discuss those possibilities. Also, the prosecution is looking to get rid of the sketches. They don't want those discussed. And we'll go over that motion in Lemonade regarding the sketches. We'll have a long discussion about that, about Sarah Carbaugh, about Betsy Blair, the 2 main sources for those sketches. We'll keep you up to date play by play also as we continue on. It looks like there was some type of IPAS lawsuit and settlement agreement. And there is a state's motion in Lemonade regarding IPAS settlement. We'll talk about that. We won't spend too much time there. So, how the hell are you? Welcome in, Renee, Rainy Days. Misunderstood, welcome in. Good morning to you. Christine, James Tate. Thank you, James. Appreciate you. Jerry, good morning. How are you? Metal Mama. Good to see you, Cindy. Hello, hello. Boston. Night Shadow. Brett Decker. Melissa. She's the wild card. Every crew needs a wild card. That's Melissa. Patty, what's up? Roxy. Silas, how you doing? Amelia. Pipers, good to see you. Susan. Jill, Melissa. Linda. Star Quilt. That's probably why the prosecution said they believe other actors might be involved. Yes, and I'll give you my take on that here in just a moment. This morning they said they found hair in Libby's hand. I think it was Abby's hand, but yes, uh, that's definitely bombshell news. And I told you guys we're going to hear a whole lot of new information that we haven't heard. Jody, good to see you. Yeah, we're going to talk about that hair. Danny B, welcome. Yep. We'll get into it. Hey, my guy Anthony, good to see you. Yep, they want the sketches out. And we'll read all of those documents. So I want to give a shout out to Turbo. She posted them on her Twitter or her X account, and I was able to grab those. So make sure you guys go support Turbo for her good work. Thank you again, Turbo. Kitty Cat, what's up? TJ. Yeah, and you don't want to get over emotional. You don't want to get pulled, this way and then pulled back that way. It's, stick to your guns. Stick to your gut. That's why it's best to hear out all of the details. Never to jump the gun. Good to see you, Yankee. Good morning. Bird Brain, trolling around YouTube last night. Found a lawyer who was attending the trial. She goes by Lawyer Lee. Some information was very interesting. Growing Crazy, good to see you. Boston, how are you? Yeah, so this could be a good thing or a bad thing. Hey, Cheeks, hope you're having a great lunch. Enjoy the rest of your day. It's always good to see you. We'll get into that, Linda. I'm not quite sure. I haven't read those documents. I just pulled them for you guys. I pretty much gathered everything. So everything that's happened today, I have it all consolidated here for you guys, and we'll get to it all eventually. What's up, Andrew? What's up, Jill? My guy, Don Spain. Hope you're having a good day today. Have a great day at work. Shane, how are you? Nana73, welcome in. Miss Dog Lover. Molly, hope you're driving safe. Eye on the road. Keep your eyes on the road. Well, Molly, since you're driving, we're going to have to hit you with this to make sure you're paying attention.
Give me all you got! Vincent, give me all you got! I swear, me and my brother.
Eyes on the road, young lady. We need more information. If it's a clump of hair with roots, it's damning. If it's one loose hair, who knows? Well, it can mean a million things, right? Mustang, always good to see you. Sherry Faye. Little one. Yeah, I'm definitely assuming, little one, that it was human hair. Jill Moser, how are you? Cindy, good to see you. Yep, I heard that he smiled at the potential jurors, so they've coached him well. They got him in a little collared shirt. They got him trimmed up. He's making eye contact with the jury. They have no disposed opinions about Richard Allen. So they, in their mind, they don't know if he's guilty yet. Not sure, Boston. If anybody has that information, send it to my email at sleuthintuition@gmail.com. Hey, Jill, you're welcome. Thank you. Welcome in, Lucky. None of your business. Yeah, I think we'll get into the hair first. That seems to be the most breaking news. Yep, good to see you, Bird Brain. The hair surely has been genetically Genealogy tested after this amount of time. Can't wait to hear Sluice's opinion on the hair. I don't know if it works that way. I don't know what type of hair sample. Without the follicle or the, I guess they would refer to it as the stem, they can't, they need that to recover the DNA. But they do have new methods of finding out what the hair is made up of. They're not just using like comparisons and opinions, which is very similar to tool mark evidence, where they put it under a microscope and they kind of compare it, and you have different experts that either agree or disagree. Now they have technology where they can literally put it into their machines and find out what the hair is made up of, enzymes and proteins and whatever, and match it that way. And it only takes about 24 to 48 hours. But without that I guess follicle, hair follicle or stem, I don't know if they can get DNA. So it really depends on what kind of hair they have and what kind of analyses they've done on it. Because you can't have it both ways, right? Calling the bullet junk science and then using a microscope to compare, or disregard Richard Allen as a match, because it's basically the same thing. Welcome in, Sam Cooley. Metal Mama Michelle, thank you so much for sponsoring today's live stream. I appreciate you. Purple, welcome in. We have the 3B. What's that? Susan, good to see you. None of your business. Becky said long ago that they had DNA and were working with a genetic genealogy person. Yeah, that makes you think that they are pulling the DNA from the hair. Early on, they said we have one science element, which I'm assuming is the bullet, and then the human element, which is the hair. But also in the Ron Logan affidavit, they mention animal hair. So I don't know what the hell's going on. Aunt Cool, welcome in. Maybe it was a cat hair. Piper's always good to see you. All by myself. Kate B, good to see you. Hair belongs to Kathy or Richard's daughter. I think they would know that by now, even through DNA, if that's connected to this hair that we're hearing about. The state is trying to get the sketches thrown out. Yeah, we're going to look at those documents here in just a minute. Rex Stardust, welcome in. So now Nick doesn't want the sketches to be allowed to be admitted into evidence. I don't remember him ever mentioning the sketches. I don't think they're listed in the probable cause affidavit. He used Betsy Blair and Sarah Carbaugh more to help back up his timeline, which seems to be the biggest part of this case. Yeah, that might be common, Kate B, when it comes to the sketches. I don't know. I'm not the one to ask. Curvy twist and turns ahead. Oh, yeah. Slow down, sharp turn ahead. I don't think so, Linda. If you guys are just joining, the latest update I had came from Kit Hanley at Kit Hanley TV. Stated 3 jurors have been bounced. Number of jurors now is at 11. A mom with childcare issues, a professor with diabetes issues, working to confirm why the 3rd juror was bounced. And I also heard another one was actually being questioned. I don't know if that includes the few listed there. Welcome in, Lala. Miss Smala, good to see you. Since they are saying the hair doesn't match, wouldn't that mean they have whatever is needed from the hair for a DNA workup? Well, I'm going to show you guys a video that might help you educate on how they can compare hair samples. There's 3 ways, but it depends on the sample. They can do it in a way very similar to tool markings, where they kind of compare it, and it's all subjective. They can do it by figuring out what the hair is made up of and if it matches the suspect. And if they have the hair stem or follicle, then they have DNA. So it depends. Good morning, GP. Welcome in. Shimona V, good morning to you. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of spin on it. You know, you're going to have people who believe Richard Allen is 100% guilty. They're going to say, hey, well, this is proof others are involved. And people who believe that Richard Allen is being set up or used as some kind of a patsy, they're going to say, well, this is proof that he's not involved. You know, whatever feeds the ego is what they're going to do. Then Mint, how you doing? Mark Evans, welcome in. Okay. We're all caught up on the chat. Let's go ahead and dive into this article. Fox 59, they're the ones that broke the information, so we're going to go to them first. So this article was titled Defense Claims Hair Found with Victim Didn't Match Richard Allen. And that could be very compelling to a jury, right? Kate, she says Rex Heuermann. If you guys aren't familiar with that case, they found a hair that belonged to Rex's wife, and that's how they were able to find him. Yeah, found on the victim's bodies in duct tape. You know, they had a few samples of her hair. All right. Defense lawyers for Richard Allen made a startling admission during Tuesday's jury selection this morning. Allen's defense team revealed that hair was found in Abby Williams' hand that didn't match Richard Allen. That's the first time that information has been made public. The defense made the comments during many opening statements preceding jury selection. Allen is charged with 4 counts of murder in connection with the deaths of Abby and her friend Libby German, February 2017. Indiana State Police announced his arrest on October 2022. During Tuesday's proceedings, 3 previously selected jurors were dismissed from the trial, bringing the total number of selected jurors down to 11. 1 was removed because of childcare issues, another over health concerns, a third was dismissed as well. Due to the high-profile nature of the case, Allen's defense team asked for a change of venue. Special Judge Fran Gohl, appointed by the Indiana Supreme Court to oversee the case after the original judge recused himself. And we're going to go over some of these old documents from the first days following the arrest of Richard Allen, who was logistically challenging. She decided to bring in jurors from Allen County and have them transported to Carroll County for the trial. Jury selection began Monday when 12 jurors and 2 alternates were chosen. 3 of them were dismissed today. More than 50 prospective jurors have been called for the next round of jury selection. The jurors will be sequestered for about a month. After a break in the proceedings on Wednesday, they'll be sworn in on Thursday and transported to Carroll County. So it looks like I was correct as far as the opening statements. It will be on Friday, the 18th. Cole is scheduled to meet with the media on Thursday afternoon with opening statements and testimony to start on Friday. All right, here. Maybe opening statements will be Thursday. Testimony. Okay, no. Opening statements and testimony set to start on Friday, the 18th. Okay. The judge also has several motions to consider before trial begins. And remember, she's going to make a decision, I believe, today or tomorrow on whether or not the jury should be able to visit the crime scene. Okay, so I think that's the biggest news of today. Defense attorneys say hair found in Abby Williams' hand does not match Richard Allen's DNA. So that tells me that they do have the follicle. They do have the stem of the hair that contains the DNA. Otherwise, why would they even state, it doesn't match the DNA? So I think that's a given. And we said early on, guys, if they had Richard Allen's DNA, I mean, we did a 2-hour live stream about this. If they had it, we would have heard about it. We also talked about how that could point to other suspects, and that could be the reason that Nick was saying, hey, we believe others are involved in this. It could also explain why Jerry Holman during the interrogation said, hey, we know you had a part in this. He never said, hey, we know that you killed Abby and Libby. After he compared the unspent bullet to Richard Allen's gun, that was their probable cause to arrest him, and also proof that he's involved in this. So in my mind, that could be a good thing. Because if others are involved, that's going to give Richard Allen a bargaining chip. That gives him something to use to bring to the table to make a deal. So it really depends on how the defense plans to spin it. I feel like what they're doing is they're using some kind of veiled negotiating tactics. I think the hair doesn't have a follicle. Well, if they're talking about DNA, I think it must. Little one. Deucey pie. Whatever feeds ego. What the hell is that supposed to mean? People want the evidence to convict the right guy. Well, it sounds like you were triggered by me talking about people's ego, so that should tell you something right there. If the hair belonged to an unknown male, the defense would have announced that long ago. Yeah, and when we interviewed Julian Powell told us through an exclusive interview that he was at the trails between 3 and 4, or 3:30 and 4. He said when they interviewed him, they took his blood and they took a hair sample. They plucked it. So now we know why. Hey, Hiawatha. Sorry I'm late. News at Noon says we have 12 jurors and 3 alternates picked. Thank you for the update. They've already replaced the 3 booted today. Appreciate that. If you guys have any information, feel free to share it. That's all we're doing is consolidating all of the info. Boston says they'll spend all day teaching him how to tilt his head, how to hold his mouth, how to hold your lips, how wide to keep your eyes open, where to set your shirt collar for your next photo. Yeah, they definitely schooled him on what to do and how to act in that courtroom. I agree with that. We need more info. Think Goal will allow cameras last minute or audio. I believe that it's possible, yes. Only because she's always been an advocate and she's been fighting for cameras in the courtroom in Indiana. She was the one that allowed cameras in early on before it turned into a circus. So I do believe once a jury is selected and that process is completed, I think she will allow cameras. Most likely not, but I think that she might. Notice in every document put out by the court regarding this, she says at any point this could change. Kate B says the defense is so predictable they have no case. Their evidence clearing Richard Allen doesn't clear him at all. I mean, that depends. That depends. The jury might not agree with you. I mean, they don't know a whole lot about the case, and they hear, hey, like, there's this hair. Maybe this excludes Richard Allen, But at the same time, the defense is trying to paint this picture like one man can't do this, right? Their whole defense has been, hey, Richard Allen alone couldn't have accomplished this. Okay, well, here's the hair for the other guy, you know what I mean? So they're very, I guess, hypocritical. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too. Thank you, Turquoise. Thank you guys for hanging out. Don says, we all have been speculating on what the prosecution is holding back. Now we are finding out what the defense is holding back. That's the first thing that popped into my mind. There's going to be a lot of bombshells. C. Swinford. You would think that's a given, but they could be talking in circles. It doesn't match because there's nothing to match. Oh, you're saying, oh, well, the DNA doesn't match because they don't have DNA? Not quite sure what you mean. I think this is a given that that the hair has DNA attached to it. Yeah, they would definitely have to go down to the crime scene, though. They'd have to go down the hill on the south side and then go down near the cemetery on Ron Logan's property down to the crime scene and up to the creek, I believe. Maybe even watch somebody cross the creek. I'm not quite sure. But the water was very shallow, February 17th of 2017. Hey, Amelia, part of staging. I mean, to say Richard Allen put the hair there, I mean, there have been cases where people wore bigger shoes. They left cigarette butts at crime scenes with DNA that belonged to somebody else. But that means that's usually when they kill their wives or their husbands or somebody that they know, somebody that they're highly motivated to kill, somebody that's taken custody of their children or is, milking them for child support or interfering with a new relationship. Typically, those are cases that involve a strong connection between the accused and the victims. In this case, it seems different. I don't see Richard Allen saying, oh, here, let me put this random piece of hair, in your hand. I just don't think that that's realistic. Hey, Charlotte. What's up, Zuzu Pedals? True Crime and Wine couple, welcome in. They can have mitochondrial DNA without a root. Not with a hair. I don't think I don't think you can pull DNA from a hair. C. Swinford, I agree. I think they'll stay on schedule. Ricky is very creepy looking to me. The juvenile witnesses described him as creepy as well. His mannerisms are off-putting to people who have attended the hearings. Well, that's because we have preconceived notions about him. Right? And that's one of the main reasons we could probably, well, me personally could never sit on that jury. It's my opinion that he is the bridge guy, right? Because of what he said to the witnesses, and the witnesses stating that the guy that they witnessed on the trails is the same guy that's on the bridge. And the guy on the bridge is on video pulling out a gun and commanding the girls to go down the hill. To me, that's very damning. Is it enough to convict a man of murder? That I don't know. Shane says, after crossing the creek and going up the terrain, you'd imagine the hair was transferred around the time of the abduction. Interesting to see what Nick says. Very interesting. That's true, Boston. But they have Kurt's, they have his DNA. And remember early on, Kim Riley said, yeah, we have DNA, but it's like this guy has never committed a crime before. Well, we always assumed, well, Richard Allen doesn't have a criminal record. So they're referring to him. But when I heard that, the first thing I thought of was a young person. You know, a young person. This is their first time committing a horrible crime. Not like this is an adult. So maybe the person that helped Richard Allen is a younger man. I agree. None of your business. We'll be on the edge of our seats for sure. Maybe from the search. I think that's doubtful. No reason for it to be in her hand. You know, only reason for it to be in her hand is she's kind of struggling, or the person who's actually killing her or redressing her is standing over her, interacting with her, very close to her. I don't see her crossing that creek and doing all of that, and having just a hair that was transferred at some point throughout the day. I see that being unlikely. It most likely points to a second suspect, or the actual killer, right? One of the two. It points to the actual murderer, or it points to Richard Allen's accomplice, or Richard Allen could have played a smaller role in this. And I feel like this could be them attempting to backdoor a confession, something that minimizes his role in this crime. We speculated early on that the reason that, well, I did anyway, the reason that he left the shell casing there is because he got into an altercation with the other killer. And the other killer, kicked his ass, took the gun from him, emptied the chamber, and then handed his gun back. That was just an early theory. Charlotte, welcome in. He looked bewildered to me. Boston says searchers everywhere around the crime scene. Not really. Not really around the crime scene. Not that close, right? The closest people were people like Pat Brown, a small group of people. And they were all given polygraphs, interviewed for, multiple times. They gave, I'm sure, blood and hair. Don't worry, Deuce Pie's gone. If you can't have a mature conversation, there's no room for you here. All opinions are welcome, regardless if you think Richard Allen is guilty, innocent, in between. Everybody's welcome. We just ask that you be mature. No trigger trolls. I'm going to go in Sleuth's chat and get all triggered. Remember, guys, I'm not an expert. I've created this platform because I felt there were no fair spaces out there on YouTube, especially when it comes to the Delphi case. So all it takes for you to take part in this is you have to suffer through my opinion. That's the price you have to pay. Suffering through my unprofessional opinion. If you can handle that, everybody's welcome. Just no family bashing, no victim blaming, and no trigger trolls. And you have to have the ability to agree to disagree. Pretty simple. He's out of here, Don. Don't worry about it. What's up, Cryptex? Don't worry, he's already probably trying to find out who I am, all pissed off because I blocked him. I'm going to get his address. I'm going to expose Sleuth. People like that are really weird. Go have fun, buddy. Have at it. Oh, I got something for you. Here, I should have played this before I kicked him out. Where is it?
All right, youngster, out you go.
Don't come back!
That's for you, Deuce. Douche. All right. I think it's powerful. It's a powerful story, but at the same time, the defense, they've been trying to tell the world that Richard Allen is incapable of committing this crime alone. Right? So if they have hair that doesn't belong to Richard Allen, that kind of tells a story that he had help. So if that's their most damning evidence, you think that they would have tried to paint more of a picture of that somebody did commit this crime alone. It just happened to not be our client. Because look, we have evidence that seems to exonerate him. But they can't have both, right? They can't have their cake and eat it too. They can't say, hey, one man, there's no way one man like Richard Allen could commit this crime alone, and then say, hey, look, there's another hair here. Because in the jury's eyes, or in my eyes at least, it's going to say, well, okay, well, if Richard Allen couldn't do this alone, that must be the guy that helped him. Because they have a lot of evidence that tells us that he's involved. Good one, Shadow. Good one. Touche. Touche. Miss Smalla, what's up? They could just let one larger TV station in Indiana film it. That way the world would be a record, but avoiding potential chaos. Yeah, and I think they will. I could be wrong, guys. I can't see into the future. That's just my opinion. And I've told you why it's my opinion. I don't just give my opinion. I tell you why it's my opinion. Judge Gull has been an advocate for cameras in the courtroom in Indiana for some time. And she also approved cameras early on in this case. So it is my opinion, based on those facts, that she still may. Not to mention, in all of the documents regarding cameras in the courtroom, it says right there at the bottom, subject to change at any time. What's up, Frankmeister? First and still just one of my people. Yeah. We know that it was around, he doesn't know where he was that day. He was extremely high. We're talking about Garrett Kurtz. He worked at Indiana Packers. He was in training. So he knows Ron Logan. He told stories to Open Secrets, the YouTube channel, of riding his quad across the bridge, creating trails all through there. We know that his father had horses and helped Ron Logan with his horses. And he doesn't remember anything that happened. Not to mention, he's basically a serial killer. Yep, first for me too, GP. Welcome in, Fight for Justice. Oh yeah, they're gonna spin it in their favor. So I just ask you guys to be patient, look at all of the evidence, wait for the rebuttal. Don't try to explain it away. Take this information head on. Welcome in, H. Nixon. I think they would know that. And they said early on that they have DNA. But I also was very confused by the fact that they didn't mention that to Richard Allen. Like, why would they tell him, hey, we found your bullet. We know that you're tied to this. They never said, hey, we know you killed Abby and Libby. They told him that we know that you played a role in this crime. We know it and we can prove it. And you're going to jail and you're going to be charged with murder because you had a role in this crime. So you can either tell us right now, but one thing they didn't mention was we also have your DNA. So the fact that we knew that they had DNA, but yet they're not mentioning it in regards to Richard Allen. Remember, guys, I told you that months ago. Like, hey, we know they have DNA and it doesn't belong to Richard Allen. What does that mean? Well, in my opinion, it means that they have another suspect. Early on in the case, that's what they said. And they say that in most cases early on, right? They say, well, we haven't gathered all the facts. Others could be involved. We don't want to say right now. That's common. But in this case, it was much different. Very different. And now we know why. And now we know why they haven't mentioned the DNA in regards to Richard Allen, because it's not his DNA. None of your business. The problem with his defense is he was at certain spots of the trail at certain times. His claims of only seeing certain people fall apart, as well as not being seen by others at those times. Yep. And that is mentioned in the probable cause affidavit. And that's going to be the biggest part of their narrative, right? Of the prosecution. They're going to say, hey, look, Richard Allen puts himself there at the time the girls were missing. We didn't have to do that. He did it himself. Not only that, he told us, hey, he was dressed like the guy on the bridge. Okay. Well, he also told us that he walked past those three girls, one being taller than the rest. Well, that's exactly the three girls that saw the bridge guy. They said, hey, the guy, we didn't get a good look at this guy. However, the guy that we did see walking by us just before the girls went missing is the guy in Libby's video. So Richard Allen is basically confessing to being the bridge guy. Now, with the bullet, that just says, hey, look, not only is he basically confessing to being the bridge guy, we can tie him to the crime scene, quote unquote, scientifically. Yeah. Well, according to the defense, it is not Richard Allen's hair. Dark Horse's hair is mitochondrial DNA without the root. I'm telling you, I don't think you can get DNA from hair without the root. I could be wrong. Here, let's play a video here. Maybe this will help clear it up.
Time on TV shows like NCIS, a single hair left at a crime scene leads to a killer. That was just Hollywood fantasy, but as KPIX5's Andrea Borba shows us, scientists in Livermore are close to harnessing the power of the building blocks of your hair.
Hair, it's your crowning glory.
Of course, the amino acid.
And soon, thanks to scientists from Lawrence Livermore National Lab, it will provide the evidence necessary to tie you definitively to a crime.
We've leveraged the fact that protein in your body is essentially an echo of what's in your DNA. Your DNA.
Let me go back to this comment here. He is right. Dark Horse, you are right. I was kind of reading over the mitochondrial. Yes, mitochondrial DNA. Okay. So to be specific, yes, mitochondrial DNA you can get from hair. Sorry.
DNA is a blueprint for the proteins that are produced by your body.
In the past, hair evidence was collected at crime scenes, but could only be used to identify a suspect with a microscope and an expert opinion comparing samples.
So that instead of relying on someone's opinion about whether something matches, you can make a measurement.
Using only an inch of hair, Brad Hart and Dion Annex
These are particular selected ions.
can identify the amino acids and peptides that make up your hair. So far, the degree of accuracy is 1 in a million after the hair is broken down into its parts.
We hope in the future to, of course, make that even better. We predict that if we had 100 of these identification markers in, say, an identification panel, you might say, for hair identification, this would be sufficient to get a unique pattern for a person out of the entire world's population. Yeah, each little bump in there is an individual peptide that's coming out of the chromatograph. And what you get are basically peaks and valleys that are displayed here represent each individual peptide that comes out of the mass spectrometer.
The advantage of hair over DNA is how robust it is. Think of the hairballs that live under your bed. DNA in comparison is very fragile and easily mixed up at a messy scene.
So you imagine you come across a crime scene, you may have a pool of blood, but it may not just be one person's blood, right? The more contributors to that mixture of DNA, the more difficult it is to determine those whose DNA it was, whose blood it was. The nice thing about hair is if you find a hair, it only came from one person.
Scientists at the lab have been able to test a piece of hair for its markers that is over 250 years old. Breaking the hair down and getting a profile is almost as quick as Abby on NCIS. Just 24 to 48 hours with about the same cost as DNA.
And this really comes into play both in connecting suspects with a crime scene, but it also be very, very important in exonerating people. All right.
Up next at the lab, finding out what treating your hair to the Clairol color wheel means for its genetic breakdown.
So is blonde hair different from brunette hair? If someone had dyed their hair or if they permed their hair, how do those things affect our ability to recover these profiles?
Andrea Borba, KPIX5.
I'm on TV shows like
Megan, welcome in. So we learned today there was some bombshell information released that there was a piece of hair in Abby's hand that did not match Richard Allen's DNA. And we were kind of discussing whether or not you can pull DNA and things like that from it, but you can. So early on I was wrong. It's not it's not a match of DNA, it's mitochondrial DNA. So I think that means that you can match it. What is it, to your mother? Yeah, you can, Timmy. Mitochondrial DNA. So I was reading it in and kind of blowing over that part. So to be specific, you can get DNA. So I was wrong about that. But as far as like an exact match, you would need the follicle. Sarah, welcome in. Could he have put hair in Abby's hand like branches and leaves on bodies to make it like Odinism? Gary Ridgway, cigarette butts near his victim. Well, there's been a lot of cases where people have planted false evidence. They've worn bigger shoes and left the shoes at the crime scene. They've stolen weapons, left the weapons at the crime scene. They've taken cigarettes that they found in the public and dropped them at the crime scene. But in most of those cases that I've come across, it's like where somebody is killing their husband or their wife. It's not in some kind of random sexually motivated or whatever what we're dealing with in the Delphi case. Yeah, it's very good evidence. Even if some folks call it junk science, even to have an expert say, hey, look, this matches, that can be very compelling. The makeup of the hair, and then also mitochondrial. And if I'm not mistaken, that could match to his, to his mother. But in order to get actual DNA, you do need a root attached. None of your businesses. When he tried to change his timeline in a panic, he didn't consider the can of worms that would open in regards to who else was there and what they saw and where they saw it. Yeah, he was kind of assuming what law enforcement, the pieces of information that they had. He would only admit to what he thought they had, but he wasn't considering the folks that were coming and going after the fact that would have been able to see Richard Allen if he had been there. So he had to change it to, well, I left at 1:30. Okay, well, what about the people that were there prior to that? They didn't see you there. So the timeline is going to be the biggest part of it. Okay, so it looks like you can use mitochondrial DNA for genealogy as well. Rex saying, but to think about staging something like a hair during a spontaneous murder, I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see that either. This would have to be something that was planned out, right? You have to go through the motions over and over and over. You would have to understand how investigations work. You would have to pre-plan it out. You would have to acquire the hair. Like, where'd you get this hair? I just don't feel like it's likely. What's up, Richard? Good to see you, my friend. Sherry says, along with all the confessions Richard Allen made, he told many variations of the cause of death. Sarah Harvey, could he have put hair in Abby's hand? He could have, but I don't subscribe to that. I just don't see him doing that. Mark says maybe taking her pulse. Carbon says, really? Richard Allen put someone's hair in her hand? Come on. Yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's likely. Good to see you, Carbon. PB parked there because he asked Logan to search his property. It's a nothing burger. Yeah, and it could be. Just like we're hearing this bombshell information from the defense, we're going to hear a lot more in these opening statements. Okay, we'll get into some of these court documents. You guys hang tight. I'll be right back in about 60 seconds. All right. Did you guys time me? So I think Richard Allen putting somebody else's hair in Abby's hand reminds me a lot of people saying that law enforcement planted Richard Allen's bullet. You know, it kind of follows that same illogical pattern. So the same way that the bullet is going to prove that Richard Allen had part in this, I think the hair is going to kind of lean towards proving that he had help. Sherry says they also have confession of sorts from Elvis Fields. No, they don't have a confession from Elvis Fields. They have Elvis Fields telling, kind of insinuating that he had something to do with it to his sister. Do I believe he did lie to his sister? Yeah. The same way that I believe Brad Holder lied to his ex-wife. I don't believe his ex-wife is lying, and I don't believe Elvis Fields' sister is lying. So we can't have Ron Logan admitting to it to James Haas and being part of this crime. We can't have Keegan Kline admitting to this and being part of this crime. We can't have Richard Allen confessing to this crime. You know, we can't have all these guys doing this together, right? But you have Richard Allen who we can prove was there that day. He basically admitted to being the bridge guy, and now he has this bullet. So when he confesses, it's much different. Good to see you, Zuzu. Hey, Cindy, we need to hear more about the hair before we assume. Yeah, I'm very interested in this, but it's definitely good to hear your guys' opinions about this. Amelia says, in my opinion, prosecution has more that they haven't disclosed. Yep. And I bet you the defense does too. Elena, how are you? Remember when the rumor was Abby fought like hell? I thought it was Libby fought like hell. She pulled the perp's hair. Well, I believe the rumor was Libby fought like hell because she had the killer's skin under her fingernails. That went from that came from Erskine's texts that were leaked out. What's up, Baywatcher? Hey, how does she know what people attending the hearing feel about mannerisms being off-putting? I think people are just allowed to have their opinion, Baywatcher. You know? I think that's okay, right? They're just leaving a comment in the chat box. Miss Small, from examination without the root, I suppose it can be told about the coarseness, thickness, texture, hair color, possibly ethnic background. Yeah, I mean, they can pull out the total makeup of the hair and determine if another sample is consistent with that. Don Spain says, remember, everyone in Indiana, all you have to prove is Richard Allen's actions. Kidnapping led to the murders. And that's all they plan to prove. That's it. All they need to prove is that Richard Allen is the bridge guy. And he pretty much confesses to that. Whatever happened after that, they're going to say, well, Richard Allen hasn't told us. But we just proved to you without a doubt. They're not trying to prove Richard Allen killed the girls and covered them with sticks and forced them across the creek and it was a sexual assault. They don't need to prove any of that. All they're trying to prove, and Don Spain is hitting it right on the head with this, is that he kidnapped the girls. And if he wouldn't have kidnapped them that day, they would still be alive. And remember, Richard Allen admitted to being there at the time the girls disappeared. He admitted to running into those 3 girls. And those 3 girls also said that the man in Libby's video is the man that they ran into at the exact same time. So that's it. If they can prove that Richard Allen is the bridge guy, whatever happened after that, they'll just have to hope that he explains that. And that's kind of what the charges reflect. Thanks for reminding us, Don. Susan, could the hair possibly be one of the girls? And defense is saying it's not Richard Allen's to put this in a... Well, we keep seeing comments like that they're being misleading, you know. But I don't think so. I think they legitimately have a human hair with DNA. However they got that DNA, mitochondrial, however they got it, I believe that they do have DNA. I'm one witness or rib of hair away from being triggered. Right, Shane? A lot of people are triggered. You have the same people who say law enforcement planted the bullet are getting upset because people are asking if Richard Allen planted the hair. You know what I'm saying? It's just very hypocritical. Well, law enforcement planted the bullet. What do you mean Richard Allen planted the hair? That's stupid. Okay, well, it's pretty stupid to think that law enforcement planted a bullet on the 14th as well. So that's what we do here on this channel. We're trying to be fair. We don't want to be hypocrites. Cindy says hair could have been picked up from the ground and been there for years. There is a reason we haven't heard about this. Well, we didn't hear about it from the prosecution because it doesn't help their case. And we didn't hear about it from the defense because I believe that it helps their case. It's kind of like one of their aces. Yeah, I think that's correct, They said that Libby fought like hell. Hey, Stephanie, welcome in. Good to see you. Yeah, correction. I got you. Yeah, it's ridiculous. You know, if Richard Allen's innocent, trust me, guys, they're gonna if they're not trying to prove he's innocent or not, but if they can't prove he's guilty, he's gonna walk free. It's that simple. Oh yeah, Sherry. For some reason, it all started for me yesterday. People tried hacking my website. They were trying to hack it all day without success. I got dozens of hate emails calling me a fucking idiot, blah, 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 blah. You know, I blocked like a handful of people from sending me emails. It's really weird. I just don't understand how grown people feel like they're so triggered about something that they have to attack somebody who's just providing their opinion. My opinion is no more valuable than yours. But it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Hey, Caricature, good to see you. None of your business. You gonna skin that smoke wagon? Or are you just gonna stand there and bleed? Something on your mind? Just want to let you know you're sitting in my chair. Is that a fact? Well, for a man that don't go heels, you run your mouth kind of reckless, don't you? No reason to go heels to get the bulge on a tubber like you. Is that a fact? That's a fact. Well, I'm real scared. One of my favorite movies. You're damn right you're scared. I can see that in your eyes. Yeah, it's going to get worse for sure. And if you don't believe me, you can hear it from Pat.
It'll get worse before it gets better.
Have a great day, Mustang. Good to see you. Hey, Geek Mom, how are you? He probably got that scarf at Goodwill. Some poor schmuck is going to be in the crosshairs someday. Yeah, it's kind of strange that they don't know whose hair that belongs to. Thank you, C. Appreciate you. All right, let's go to some of the information that was released today. Let's go to Barbara MacDonald. She says here, Prosecutor McClellan, this is pulled directly from her X feed. BG used the gun he had to force the girls down the hill, killed Abby and Libby. His intent was to have his way with them, but got interrupted. State named witnesses that weren't on previous lists: Becky Patty, Anna Williams, Derek German, Nicole Robertson, who was an FBI, then also Brad Weber. So remember, a lot of people don't know this, but Brad Weber, they were looking at him very hard at the beginning. He came home from work right around 3:45. And I believe that's what scared Richard Allen. He was doing whatever he was doing. He wasn't concerned with the people on the bridge. But when he saw Brad coming down that private drive, he said, shit, they can see me from there. Nicole Robertson was the FBI, and she wrote the PCA that said Ron Logan was the killer of the girls. She got a lot of the information wrong. She said the girls were dropped off at 1. We know that that wasn't true. Barb says defense also listed some new witnesses like Doug Carter, Tony Klein, Mike Patty, and I thought this was interesting, Logan Holder, and Robert Ives. She goes on to say, only family I saw in attendance today was Diane and Eric Erskine. She said defense attorney Baldwin stated, and this is a quote, "We're going to go after the police hard. This is important." Another post by her, defense also listed some new witnesses, and I already quoted that. Okay, let's get into the state's motion in Lemonade regarding the sketches. Go ahead and put this on the screen for you guys. And also try to get caught up on the chat here. Okay, so Eastern time, this was posted 7:18 a.m. It's dated the 14th. It's not on the docket just yet. State's motion in Lemonade regarding composite sketches. Yep, Sherry, the way they charged him in Indiana, just kidnapping makes him guilty of murder. And that's the way it is in most states. It's kind of like if you go and commit an armed robbery and the clerk shoots at you and accidentally kills, an innocent civilian, you are responsible for that murder. Yeah, and I wonder if the prosecution will ask him, like, hey, will you say it? Will you say down the hill? And I believe that if he says no, that's going to make him look guilty. Yeah, Sherry. All my politics are left in the voting box. Accomplice here, Richard Allen would have cut a deal. He's not cutting a deal because there is nobody to rat on. And for him, any sentence is a death sentence. Maybe, but this tells me that there's evidence that others are involved, right? I don't see how some random hare survived the crossing of the creek, fighting, dressing and undressing. Unless that's where the hair came from. You never know. Maybe it came from dressing and undressing or putting on the hoodie. Maybe there was hair inside the hoodie that belongs to a friend or something. I just don't think it's likely. To me, it points at another suspect or the real killer. One of the two. But with the bullet evidence that they have, it tells me the accomplice or the actual killer. Richard Allen's the kidnapper, and the hair belongs to the killer. Thank you, Boston. Carbon, easy Carbon. I like you. Stephanie. Hey, Super Sleuthy. Hiawatha. Shane says hi. Stop ignoring her. He's cooking dinner, Hiawatha. Hey, Ellen. No, they didn't say if it was male or female. I think we're going to find that out. Some people are even questioning whether or not it's human. I'm assuming that it's human and that they have DNA from it. Sherry says Ron Logan was a very strong old man, also alcoholic, tried to lie about his whereabouts on that day. That's a fact, but they also have his timeline and it doesn't fit. TC, welcome in. But just got too old and sick to continue. By the way, seems we were right so far, but still awaiting evidence. Only then will we know 100%. T Lemon, how you doing? Kurtz was my first choice until the Keystone cops finally arrested the actual murderer. I don't know. I think that was her hoodie. I think Abby was wearing Libby's hoodie. The hoodie that Libby stole from Kelsey that was mentioned on Facebook is a different hoodie. It's like a gray and green hoodie. Rex, they could just use built-in cameras and not allow any media. I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to go ahead and use their own cameras and then release whatever they pick and choose to the media. So you'll get to see parts of the trial. You know, Richard Allen sitting in there, some testimony. From my understanding, I could be wrong. One was a jacket, one was a hoodie. Yeah, it's good to see you, Carbon. Remember, guys, all opinions are welcome here. Just have some decorum. If you can't control yourself, it's that simple. You're just not welcome. I don't know, Ellen. I guess they've done genealogy, and you can do genealogy through mitochondrial DNA. So even if they have a hair follicle or not, they can at least do genealogy. And hopefully they have tested those people surrounding Richard Allen. Hey, V, what's up? Good to see you as always. Yeah, just hold firm. Don't allow yourself to get yanked to the left and yanked to the right. Just hold firm, stay calm, and just pray that the truth comes out. You know, because if Richard Allen's innocent, you don't want him going to prison. And just because they have bombshell information doesn't mean that Richard Allen's innocent, right? Allow them to do their thing, and we'll continue to follow it piece by piece. They can compare the hair to RZA. What is that, the Wu-Tang Clan? The RZA, the Jizza. According to a quick Google search, you can get DNA from rootless hair. Yeah, we've already covered that. Mitochondrial DNA. Hopefully I'm not that far behind. Yeah, 100%, Stephanie. And Don hit it right on the head. They're not trying to prove that Richard Allen physically took a knife and stabbed the girls. They don't need to say that. All they're trying to say is that Richard Allen is the guy on the bridge that kidnapped the girls and led them down the hill at gunpoint. If he would not have done that, the girls would still be alive. And if there is more to the story, he'll be the one to explain it. But what they plan to prove is that he is 100% connected to this crime and is the bridge guy, not only by his own words, but because they found a bullet at the crime scene. Now, did he physically attack the girls? I don't think that's what they're trying to prove. Cryptex, was Tony Klein tested for DNA? That I don't know. He says he was. He's told multiple people that he was polygraphed and his DNA was taken, DNA and hair. But that comes from him. I don't know if it's true. He could be lying. Certainly hoping for something very definitive. C. Swinford. KK is arrested. If any DNA were his father's, you could tell by comparing it to Kagan's. Yep, 100%. It's very irresponsible for people to say the prosecution has nothing when they haven't seen. Exactly. We'll know after the opening statements what the prosecution has. So people that are basing everything off what the defense has said, I agree with you, Stephanie. Very irresponsible. And I agree, though, it doesn't seem like much, but we don't know half of what they have. But I agree with them, I think they have enough to convince me that Richard Allen is the bridge guy. But is that enough to convince a jury? Do they have more? What about the confessions? What about this hair not belonging to Richard Allen? What does it all mean? Yeah, Shane, and I don't know, where did they get that information from? Is it official or is that coming from Klein himself? I agree, Silas. Oh, yeah, any sentence is a death sentence. Yeah, even if they gave him 30 years, it's like basically a life sentence. What about someone saying that they spit on one of the girls? That was Elvis Fields, apparently, after he got dropped off. After being interviewed, he asked the officer, hey, if I spit on one of the girls, it could explain it away. Would I still get in trouble? But on one hand, they want to say that he's like low IQ and, has the brain of a chicken. And then on the other hand, they want to say, oh, well, he's, asking these questions. It means he's guilty. They always want it both ways. They want things in context that help their narrative, and they want to put everything else out of context. So that's one thing we're not going to do here. We're not going to be hypocrites, at least to the best of our ability. They also took animal hair off the Kleins, but don't know, did they take it off Ron Logan's dogs? I think something about Ron Logan's horses they compared some animal hair to. Did they take it off Patrick Westfall? Asked him here. I think he did. He did give DNA. Took a polygraph and gave DNA. So that would include anybody that gave DNA, hair follicle samples, and all that. Even if you're related to these folks, they're going to find you. That I do not know, Shane. It's a good question. Cindy says, let's assume it belongs to another perp. We know it does not belong to anyone. The defense is claiming to be involved. Something more going on here. Yeah, they've taken DNA from Holder, Westfall, I'm assuming Elvis Fields, and everybody else. I'm not sure, Andrew. We're going to keep you posted. Carbon says, did they say if it was human hair? No, I'm just assuming. The defense, here, let me give you the quote. So here's the quote. Richard Allen's defense attorney says hair found in Abby Williams' hand does not match Richard Allen's DNA. So to me, that tells me that it is human, and they do have DNA from the sample. Because if you're on a jury and somebody tells you something like this, and later on you find out it's animal hair, you're not going to, you can't lose the trust of the jury right off the bat. Yep, I agree with that, Don. I think that goes for both sides. Yeah, from their mother. That's what I thought, Charlotte. Thank you for clearing that up. Remember, guys, I'm not an expert. I rely on you guys. So you might say some things, and I can say, hey, well, I'm not sure, or I disagree with you. But feel free to set me straight. Remember, I'm not here to be right or wrong. We're here to be right or accurate as best to our ability. Okay, I'm just trying to get caught up on the chat just a little bit more, and then we'll get into this. So if I skip you, Carbon says there will be bombshells from the prosecutors because no way this is all they have. I agree. I think there's more from the defense too. They got something up their sleeve for sure. I think it might have to do with Keegan Klein. V says, wonder how much it's going to cost to bring TK up from Florida. But I don't even know if he has to. He doesn't even have to agree to it. Sherry, yes. The Webbers were in Arizona. They're what a lot of people call snowbirds. They migrate during different seasons. And they were living right here. I think somewhere in Phoenix, possibly. Phoenix or Scottsdale, I'm not sure. But they met at a McDonald's with FBI agents. And it was at that point that they gave permission. They didn't even need a search warrant. They said, yes, search my home. You have permission. Take whatever you need. You can, anything that's in my home, you guys can remove. They were extremely cooperative. And their son, Brad Weber, who he lives in the home, but he had his own place as well. So he would come and go, and he was watching their home, and he got off work at 3:30. It's about a 15-minute drive, I think, from Logansport, right? Lafayette or Logansport, one of the two. I think he worked at Subaru or something like that. And I believe he's the one that scared Richard Allen away, or scared the killer, right? Or killers. I feel like there's so much we don't know about the crime. But yeah, they looked at him really heavy. He kind of looks a little bit like the bridge guy, much taller though, in my opinion. But he also had a 6 Sauer 40 caliber, and they tested it, and it did not match. Sherry says, did any of you hear the snowman story from the No, I didn't. What was the snowman story? Do tell. Hey, badass, how you doing? They went to Vegas on the 20th, came back on the 25th. They weren't even back for over 5 hours, and their home was raided by the by SWAT team. Not because of CSAM, but because of the Delphi murders. And that might be why or how they overlooked Richard Allen. They were too focused in on Anthony Shots. Unless it all comes full circle. Yep, Charlotte. I don't know, Sherry. I'm being patient. Remember, we haven't heard anything from the prosecution. We don't know. We're going to have to wait. Once we hear those opening statements, we're going to know a lot more. If defense knows Richard Allen's hair is not a match, they also know that the hair is not a match for all third-party suspects. Agreed. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the snowman story. That was put in the Ron Logan affidavit. No defensive wounds. Just trying to understand if there were no cameras in the courtroom, who people are and how that info gets to YouTube. Well, there's reporters watching, taking notes, and then during the break, they go out and they post it on Twitter. And they also do interviews outside the courtroom with their cameras, and they report, to their mainstream outlets or whatever. Yep, exactly, Daisy. All they have to prove is that he kidnapped them. They've already told us from the beginning they believe others are involved, so. Kate, if Libby had skin under her nails, wouldn't that be a slam dunk? Yes, that's why I don't believe it's true. Well, that's what they're going to try to prove. Yeah, possibly, Shane. I hope that's not the case. Sleuth, you often state to not trust people. I am suspect of some new names in here today. Who is paying them and how much? Hey, we welcome new names here. There's just a few rules, No family bashing. You have to have the ability to agree to disagree and no acting like a triggered troll. Pretty simple. Where was the carrot nose? So does the evidence in the puddle add up to a snowman? What? I don't know what you're talking about. Welcome in, Miss Thang, Mike Cunningham. Sarah Harvey. Who else did I miss? Boston, thank you so much. I want to thank Metal Mama and Boston for sponsoring today's live stream. You guys rock. Patty's asking, wasn't Abby wearing Libby's clothing? No, she was wearing her hoodie. It was her Delphi swim team hoodie. It was black with gold writing. Yep. They tested multiple 40 calibers, and two of the guns they tested were 6 hours. And Richard Allen's was the only one they found a match to. That's why he's in jail. That's how they know he has something to do with the crime. See link of bridge guy enhanced image, not altered nor manipulation. This is a real image of in Libby's video. Thank goodness for Jesus. Amen. Welcome in, Kate. Well, today there was some bombshell information, Kate. The defense stated that Abby had a hair found in her hand that does not match Richard Allen. Also, the state is looking to throw out both of the sketches, and we're going to read that now. And let me see what else. And I believe they have 14 jurors selected now, and they only need a few alternates, if you guys could correct me in there. But that's everything going on so far, Kate. Auburn rumor, not sure. Daisy says he's not innocent. I don't even know why we debate this. We all saw the little shrimp on the bridge. He's so short, his jeans bag at the bottom. Well, he admitted to being there. He admitted to seeing the three girls. The three girls saw him. And they also stated, hey, the guy we saw is the guy in Libby's video. So he's basically admitted to that. Now we know that he later on told law enforcement, yeah, I was there wearing blue jeans and a blue jacket and a hat. But to say 100% sure he's the bridge guy, no. You know, I've covered enough cases to see people being set up. A lot of people don't believe in coincidences, but unfortunately they do happen. So they're going to have to prove it beyond a reason. Now, remember this word, reasonable doubt. Yeah, and I don't know exactly what happened after he did the kidnapping, right? Was there somebody waiting down the hill? Was there somebody waiting across the creek like Keegan Kline says? Yep, opening statements Friday. Hey, Miss Thank. They don't want the jury seeing the sketches. Exactly. We're going to read this right now. Just doing my best to catch up on the chat, because once I start reading this, I'm going to get even further behind. Hey, what's up, Frankie? Good to see you. This one right there. Welcome. Right field, welcome in. Well, that would lead to third-party suspicion. I agree. It's either the real killer, and it's not Richard Allen, or we're looking at the hair of Richard Allen's accomplice, in my opinion. I just don't see that hair surviving the whole ordeal, crossing the creek, fighting with these killers, you know, dressing, undressing, whatever. And then there still just happens to be a hair in your hand. Yeah, and they might. The actual opening statements will be this Friday. So I'm saying, so don't allow yourself to get pulled in one direction or the other. Just hold firm, wait for the information to come out, make an educated decision at that time. But of course, we can speculate on what we do know up until then. Yeah, I agree with you, Don. Hey, Paper Pimp, good to see you. Welcome in, Johnny Blaze. Going to be sequestered by how far will they go to block them from media? Shut off their TVs and take their phone. Yeah, no TVs, no phones, no nothing. You know, no going out on the balcony, smoking a cigarette, and then having Barb MacDonald yell up, "Hey!" None of that. Oh yeah, that's old stuff. Hey, Truffles. Yeah, lots of people went to the memorial walk. It was a big success. There's a few videos on YouTube if you want to go check them out. I watched them this morning. People were representing the sleuth crew in full effect. Shout out to you guys. Because we're everywhere. Oh, kitty cat. Let's see. Snowman is about the defense of reasonable doubt. If you go away on spring break and come home with a puddle of water on your lawn, you can assume it is melted snow, especially if you find a carrot. Oh, so I thought it was a real story. Hey, Queen of Ossian, what's up? Heather says, right, that's transfer evidence that could come from anywhere. Yeah, and it's just hard for me to believe that there's transfer evidence after everything, right? After them struggling, them going across the creek, undressing, redressing. I feel like it would most likely belong to the killer or one of the killers. Unless they find out who it belongs to, like, maybe it is transfer. Maybe the hair was inside Libby's hoodie, and when Abby put it on, it ended up in her hand. So if they can locate it and it's just like a young kid, a friend of a friend, or, maybe somebody that borrowed the hoodie at one point, somebody on the swim team. So you think they would work hard to exclude it. All right, guys. Welcome in Roxy, Karen G. Brad from Outside of the Grid. Great podcast. You better keep those eyes on the road, sir. Don't make me give you that Al Pacino. I'll do it. Okay, so let's read. This is State's motion in Lemonade regarding composite sketches. Comes now the state of Indiana by prosecutor Nicholas M. McClelland for the 74th Judicial Circuit. I respectfully request that the court enter an order prohibiting the admission or reference to composite sketches prepared by any sketch artist for an investigation of the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. For the reason that a composite sketch is not relevant, admission would result in undue prejudice, confuse or mislead the jury, or is impermissible hearsay. And the witnesses who participated in the preparation of the composite sketch will not be presented by the state for the purpose of in-court identification of the defendant. So they're not going to point and say, hey, that's him over there. They're going to use their testimony saying, hey, the guy we saw is the guy in Libby's video. That's all they need. They're not going to be able to point at Richard Allen and say, hey, that's the guy I seen. So they don't need to. They just need to say, hey, the guy we witnessed on the trail is the same guy in Libby's video. And that's it. They didn't get a good look at his face. In support of this motion, the state would show the court the following. Number one, the composite sketches prepared were intended as an investigative tool to generate leads to identify a suspect. And in fact, these sketches were not related to the identification of Richard Allen as a suspect. Therefore, the sketches would not be relevant. That the witnesses who assisted in preparation of composite sketches of the bridge guy would testify that they did not see the person depicted in their sketch for a sufficient length of time to allow them to positively identify the defendant. Therefore, again, under Indiana Rule Evidence 401, that composite sketches are not relevant evidence. And I think that applies to most cases. It's just used to kind of help get a suspect and help generate leads, tips and things. Like, hey, that looks like my brother. Well, who's your brother? His name's Richard Allen. Okay, we'll investigate. And then anything found on that person, that will be used against them. Number 3, that if the court were to consider the composite sketches to be relevant, the probative value is substantially outweighed by the unfair prejudice, confusing the issues and misleading the jury, and therefore should be excluded under Indiana Evidence Rule 403. A composite sketch reflects the police artist's interpretation of someone else's description based on the artist's synthesis of an infinite variety of facial features and configurations. Creating a composite sketch carries the potential suggestiveness of having a police artist interpret and possibly influence the perception of the witness. That the composite sketches would be hearsay or double hearsay in the sketch is an out-of-court statement and a subjective rendering by one person using the subjective description by another person / witness and does not fall within the recognized exception. It is the state's belief that the defense intends to use composite sketches from the investigation as demonstrative evidence and for impeachment purposes. That the witness who participated in the preparation of the composite sketches are not being called to provide in-court identification of the accused. Right? Can you point that man out in the courtroom today? They're not doing any of that. Furthermore, no composite sketch was instrumental in identifying Richard Allen as a suspect. Well, that leads us to the lost tip. I think we're going to learn a lot about that. That the prejudicial effect of composite sketches far outweighs the probative value for in-court identification of the accused and would likewise be inappropriately used to impeach a witness who is not presented before the jury to provide in-court identification of the accused. That Indiana courts have not addressed this issue or use of composite sketches. Indiana court have excluded composite sketches that resulted from the use of victim witness hypothesis. Other Indiana cases discuss or mention existence of composite sketch in the course of an investigation leading to probative or probable cause to an arrest, but no analysis of their use as evidence to impeach witness testimony. Wherefore, the state of Indiana, by prosecuting attorney Nicholas McClellan, respectfully requests this court to grant the following relief. Order the defendant, his counsel, and witnesses to refrain from mentioning, commenting, or making any reference whatsoever, either directly or indirectly, to composite sketches without first obtaining permission of the court outside the presence and hearing of the jury. To further order said persons to make no reference to the fact that this motion has been filed and granted, and all other relief just and proper in the premises. So there's the sketches. When you get dealt lemonade, make lemonade. Welcome in, Ghost. This is terrible investigation.
Also, over the course of the Delphi investigation, there were two primary sketches of a man police were looking for. They don't look alike. The sketch of the man with the hat came out during the start of the investigation in 2017, and 2 years later, a sketch of a man with curly hair was released. So I had this question. 2 years into the investigation, after we got the initial sketch, we were told to not rely on that sketch anymore, that this was a new sketch that came out that looked completely different than the original. But when we see the mugshot of Richard Allen, he looks mostly like that initial sketch. So why the change 2 years into someone that didn't look anything like the person that we were presented with on Monday?
Well, I'll answer the question in two parts. One, isn't that amazing? And he looks a lot like one and a little bit like the other, depending upon the eye of the beholder, right? And I've said all along, the sketches are not photographs. There are reasons that we structurally, and not structurally, but logistically changed the investigative strategy throughout the middle of this in multiple phases. Some were not even recognized, nor did they have to be. But those detectives are going to base what they're going to do based upon what they know. And what they know comes from the people that live in that community and around the world, literally around the world. So I think that was the absolute right decision at the time to do what they did. I've always said that the two sketches are simply sketches, they're not photographs. It's a piece of an investigative puzzle. And when we're all done with this, we're going to be able to meld the two of them together. And we're going to find an individual. That's what happened.
Very interesting. And I don't know if you guys remember this at all. This was CrimeCon, I think 2018. I have a transcript from that. Sergeant Holman says, I don't want to go into great detail, but they were near or on the trail. We have several sketches, but we've identified some of the people that they sketched. One of them was Mike. He's talking about Mike Patty. After when they were, Mike says, hey, I was out there looking that day when the phone calls came in. Holman says, well, after they called the police, let me clarify that. I know that there were plenty of people out there, numerous people after helping with the search. And we got a lot of sketches of those people as well, including Mike. I think maybe not. This sketch is several months. It didn't just happen in one day. Okay, and then we hear about Betsy Blair in the probable cause affidavit. She says, Allen stated that after he passed the girls and then walked to the Monon High Bridge and saw nobody else. Investigators believe that after passing the Hoosier Harvest Store at 13:46 hours, Blair parked at the trailhead entrance across from the Mears residence. In her interview, she says there are no other cars at the trailhead entrance at that time. She walked to the Monon High Bridge in a male matching the male from Liberty's video. She described him as a white male wearing blue jeans and a blue jean jacket. This matches the blue duck canvas jacket Anna Spath describes. Blair said that the male was standing on the first platform of the Monon High Bridge approximately 50 feet away from her. Blair turned around at the bridge and continued her walk. Approximately halfway between the bridge and the main hub of the trails, she passed two girls walking towards the high bridge. She said that she believed it was Liberty German and Abby Williams. So we know that Betsy Blair parked here at 146. It's a 6-minute walk to the bridge. So she saw Richard Allen at 152, turned around and started walking. She didn't spend a whole lot of time there. The girls were dropped off at 149. We know that because of Kelsey's testimony, and Kelsey leaving is seen at 149. That tells me that the girls lingered around here for about a minute or two, maybe 3 minutes, trying to locate their friends. And halfway between the Mears lot and the bridge, Betsy Blair sees Abby and Libby. So Abby and Libby are walking towards their killer after Betsy Blair just witnessed him on the first platform. So something like that. So once again, she's going to tell the court, or her testimony is going to be shared, that the man that she saw on the platform is the guy. No matter what sketch or description she provided, they're all going to go back to the video. Was that the man in the video? Yes. Okay, and then we have Sarah Carbaugh. This is from the PCA. An interview was done with Sarah Carbaugh in 2017. She states that she was traveling east on 300 North and observed a male subject walking west on the north side of 300 North away from Monon High Bridge. She stated that he was wearing a blue-colored jacket. Remember, Richard Allen admitted to wearing blue jeans and a blue-colored jacket. She stated that he was wearing a blue-colored jacket and blue jeans and was muddy and bloody. She further stated that it appeared he had gotten into a fight. And that was at 3:57. Okay, let's go to the leaked Frank's memo. Let me zoom in on this. It's a little bit hard to see. And I believe this was put out by that Max guy, the intern, who is working with the defense team. The evidence will show that Leggett concealed facts concerning descriptions that key witness Betsy Blair made directly to Leggett face-to-face in 2019 concerning the person that she, Betsy Blair, observed on the bridge, and a vehicle that she observed at the CPS parking lot around 2:15 p.m. For Leggett's timeline to work and to place Richard Allen on the Monon High Bridge at 2:13, the time of the famous Down the Hill video, Leggett desperately needed Betsy Blair to describe a man on the bridge that looked like Richard Allen. And furthermore, desperately needed Betsy Blair to describe a car that she observed parked at the CPS slot at approximately 2:15 p.m. And one thing I want to mention about the Frank's memo is everything. Remember, we did our own investigation. Remember, we were able to communicate with Patrick Westfall and verify a lot of the stuff that was there. We got our hands on almost every exhibit mentioned. We have that. We've showed it plenty of times, and they fabricated a lot of this information. So everything that's stated in the Frank's memo, you have to 100% take with a grain of salt. But on the flip side of that, I think the same goes with the probable cause affidavit. Right? If you got it, show it. Parked at the CPS parking lot at approximately 2:15 p.m. as looking like Richard Allen's black Ford Focus. Suffice to say, the evidence will show that Leggett concealed from Judge Diener that Betsy Blair described a man on the bridge that looked nothing like Richard Allen. So this was her description according to the Frank's memo. It says on February 17th, 2017, Betsy Blair met with State Police sketch artist Taylor D. Bryant and provided a description of the man she observed from 50 feet away on the Monon High Bridge, the same man that Leggett claimed in his affidavit was the killer. Betsy Blair told the sketch artist that the man she observed was, 1, a white male, around age 20, had brown curly hair, and a medium build. So I think what we're going to learn is, regardless of how she remembers seeing him, she's going to tell the jury that the man that I did see is the man that was also shown in Libby's video. So they don't need the sketches. They don't need witnesses to point out Richard Allen. He's already pointed himself out as being the guy in the video by him admitting to being the guy that those 3 young witnesses saw on the trails. So all the witnesses, all they have to say is, yep, that's the guy we saw. Me, Betsy Blair, the guy I saw is the man in the video. The 3 young witnesses, yes, the guy we saw, the man in the video. And Richard Allen is admitting that, yes, I am the guy that the 3 young witnesses did see, and I was dressed like the bridge guy. And as far as Sarah Carbaugh, once she came forward, we got this presser.
We all here? Okay. Good morning. Thank you for showing up. Basically, as
Can you
all
guys hear
know,
that?
We have sent you out an email with 2 photos in it. We would like you to put both those photos in those when you talk about this case. We want the original photo that was put out earlier, and we also want the composite photo.
AT-Bone.
So please, when you're putting out your information, we would like all that on there, please. Introduce a few people that are standing behind me before we get started here. You got Lieutenant Tom McKee from the Indiana State Police Post at Lafayette, Jeff Liggett, or Tony Liggett, sorry, from the Delphi, Carroll County Sheriff's Department. I'll get this right here in a minute. Kevin Hammond from the Carroll County Sheriff's Department, Jerry Holman from the Indiana State Police Detectives out of the Lafayette State Police Post, and Tony Slogan, who's a Public Information Officer out of the Peru Post. We're here to talk a little bit about the release that was put out. So I'm just basically going to open it up to questions. I will tell you now that most of the information that you have in the news release is about all that can be released at this time. So there's not going to be anything else real exciting, I guess would be the word, that's going to be put out there. But I'll be more than happy to take questions and we'll go from there.
How did you
What's up, Delulu?
develop this sketch? Was the sketch made with the help of eyewitness or eyewitnesses, or was it made solely from the other picture we've seen so often?
Basically, I can't really answer that question completely. I can tell you it came from the investigation itself, from officers looking into things, to tips and leads that come in.
What's up, Squeaky?
People that have come forward, we've got information from there, and the composite was put together with that information.
Why release the sketch today? Did you just
I agree with that, Squeaky, 100%. Plausible deniability was handed right to
This
her.
picture was released at this time because that's when we felt that it needed to come out. That the information needs to be put forward, and we wanted to get it out there so people can look at it. And it has, again, it has just taken a while to get this thing put together, and that's why it's taken so long to get the picture out.
In the realm of evidence and leads that you have, how big is this photograph? How much are you counting on this artist sketch or the photograph of the sketch?
I mean, it's like anything else in a case. Anytime we get something new or some information out there, we always feel it's important to the case. We feel this is very important because it actually gives a better view of the person in the picture that you see down below. It shows a little more facial features, gives you a little more information on what's we're looking at, who the suspect might be, and that's why we feel it is very important that this picture's out there at this time.
What's so striking?
Lady.
What is the thing that investigators look at and say, wow, that's the thing that's going to make this guy stand out from all the other men walking around?
It's basically just a clear picture of the space compared to what you saw down below. We've got the information out there, the pictures out there. Now we got this composite that we feel that is the same. We feel it is the same person, and we just want to make sure that people realize that picture is this person. We're hoping, and that they can get that picture and take that picture and get us some information on a possible suspect.
How confident are you that is accurate?
We're pretty confident. The information that was received, with that information, we've been able to put that together. Again, this thing wasn't drawn up overnight. We've been working with this picture and with the suspects that the witnesses that we have that would put this together. So it's not something that we did overnight. This has taken a while to put together.
Those witnesses, did they see them in the area?
Real quick, Darlene's making a comment. Can anyone verify in 6/20/22 Brad trapped the 2 girls, locking the gate on them? Yes, I've spoken to those to one of those women. That, in fact, well, they told me that in fact did happen. And there may even be a police report about it because Tobe Lesenby was the responding officer.
Or did they call the tip line with that information?
I really can't go into that because we don't want to compromise the case itself.
But when you say witnesses, so multiple people were able to help.
But on the flip side to that, Darlene, I did have a private conversation with Anna Williams about it. And she said that people should not, and I agree with her, that people should not be trespassing on the Weber property, and that they're lucky that they didn't get their asses kicked. And that was a quote from Anna, and I know some people will get triggered and be like, well, what if he had something to do with, what happened to the girls? Well, he didn't, first and foremost, and people continue to trespass on his property. So if you're going to do it, just be prepared. People have every right to protect their property, and to fight against those who are trespassing. So there's two sides to that coin.
Help you out with this.
There was people that were able to help us out with this, yes.
So a lot of people will say you guys are releasing this now because you've run out of leads. That's not true in this case, right?
No, we're still getting anywhere from 5 to 10 tips a day. We're still getting emails, so it's not something that is just, this case is not dried up. It's not a cold case. This case is still very active.
If you didn't have those tips, we may never have seen this picture in the first place, right?
Other possibility, yes.
What's the attitude of the troops working on this? I mean, the fact that there's a composite that's infinitely clearer than the picture we've been looking at. I mean, what's the move? What is the feeling among investigators who've been grinding away at this for 5 months now?
Well, anytime you get new information, officers are always excited about that information. It kind of builds up their confidence on the case itself. With this information here, we're really, it really excites them, lets them know that, people are still caring about this case, that people are still interested. And when we can get somebody to come forward with more information, if we can get a name or at least a location of this subject, that would be great. But officers have never really gotten down on this case. I think they've frustrated maybe, but as far as solving this thing, it's something that's we've always felt like we're going to solve this case.
Who made the sketch? ISP, did you guys bring somebody specific in here to talk to those witnesses to come up with the exact look of this person? Or
It's basically just been a accumulation of all the departments have come together and we've put this composite together.
Now in the release, you talk about not to focus on the hat. It might not be accurate. Can you talk a little bit about that so people at home know why?
Well, if you see the original picture down below, it appears that he's got a hat on that's got the flaps down over the kind of down over the face. We want to make sure that you focus on the picture. We want to make sure the face is what you're looking at and not to worry about the hat. Even though that hat is not quite the same as the one in the picture, we want the facial features is what we want you to look at.
If someone did recognize this person, what should they do?
They can call they can call the tip line or they can email us.
In the release, you mentioned some of exactly like his hair color and things like that. Can you talk about that information that you put in the release right now?
Basically, the hair color is a reddish brown. She was, or the person was not clear on the color of the eyes, but the person said it was definitely not blue. She was the person was very obvious that it was not blue eyes, but they did mention that they were not clear on which color it was.
So there are people out there who are sure that they saw this guy walking around that day and they helped you out. Is that fair to say? Okay.
Yeah, pretty much that's what it is, yes.
Those people come forward right away, or did it take a little bit of time for those people to come forward?
It's been a while. It took a little bit. People are scared, they're afraid to be recognized by the subject. So it just takes a while for these things to happen. Like I said, the picture didn't come overnight. We've been working on this for a while.
Do you think this guy is still around the Delphi area? Do you think he's in a different state?
What's up, Brain
That's what I hope this is
Dancer?
all about.
Scarlet Letter.
We've heard many times that somebody out there probably knows something and is really driving home the point today to make sure you call no matter how little it may be, even especially if you recognize this person.
That's what we want. We want people to call in, give us information. Anybody that can give us an identification on this subject or knows where the subject might be, that would be great. We would appreciate any information we can get.
Okay, so I think we have one more piece of information to go over. Let me triple check. I think this was titled State's Motion in Lemonade Regarding IPAS Settlement. So we'll finish with that. Before we do, we'll look at some of these photographs here that were taken early this morning at the courthouse. This one was taken by Brian Miller from Wish News 10. This was Kyla Russell with Wish News 8. And there's Greenleaf, front of the line, chilling. Good old murder sheet. Also known as the mystery sheet. This was Samantha Johnson from 13 News. Can't really see who these folks are. So shout out to those three. Some good reporting going on. Okay, let's see what the hell this is all about. Comes now the state of Indiana by prosecutor Nicholas McClelland for the 74th Judicial Circuit and respectfully requests that the court enter an order prohibiting the admission or reference to the Indiana Protection and Advocacy Service Commission versus IDOC lawsuit. Any findings that the IPAS settlement, as referred to by defense counsel during hearing on motion to suppress and in various depositions, for the reason that said lawsuit or settlement is not relevant to this case. In support of this motion, the state would show the court the following: that the Indiana Protection and Advocacy Service, or IPAS, lawsuit and settlement agreement has been used as an exhibit by the defense and has been referenced in questioning at prior suppression hearing and in depositions. Number two, that the state's knowledge the settlement agreement was extended to 1 year after the dismissal of Mast versus Indiana Department of Corrections, District Court for the Southern District of Indiana, which occurred on July 23, 2019. Therefore, the IPAS settlement was scheduled to terminate on or about July 2020. Number three, that Richard Allen did not enter IDOC until November of 2022 and was in safekeeper status while housed pursuant to this court's order. Oh yeah, I'm going to go through some of the documents too from early on that were signed by Judge Diener. I want to get your guys' opinions on that. Number four, that the defense has used the IPAS settlement and other documents from the lawsuit as exhibits to examine or impeach witnesses who were not a party to the lawsuit, were not employed by IDOC, and or did not have a responsibility in creating IDOC policy in response to the lawsuit. That the lawsuit against IDOC or the IPAS settlement is not relevant to the question of the defendant's guilt and should be excluded under Indiana E Rule 401. Number six, that the mere mention of the lawsuit would be misleading and confusing to the jury and should therefore be excluded under Indiana E Rule 403. Number seven, in addition, the spirit of multiple other rules of evidence, specifically 407, 408, and 409, indicate that judicial proceedings and settlements of extraneous matters are generally disfavored. So I'm not quite sure what this lawsuit is. Do you guys know? Order that the defendant and counsel and witness to refrain from mentioning, commenting, or making any reference whatsoever, either directly or indirectly, to the IPAS lawsuit. Must be against the prison. Okay, let's go on to... Let's take a look at the safekeeping order. Now, these are all the documents that were signed by Benjamin Diener. And a lot of people found it suspicious because he was the one that signed the probable cause affidavit, which eventually led to Richard Allen's arrest. And then also what led him to being transferred to the prison. And a lot of people think that the fact that he was transferred to that prison in solitary confinement, and that it was this safekeeping order that led to these confessions that they deemed false. So we'll take a look here. So this was November 3rd. I think he was officially charged on October 28th. So on November 2nd, 2022, Tobe Lesenby, Sheriff of Carroll County, filed a request. So it was requested by Tobe, by the Sheriff of Carroll County, to transfer inmate from Carroll County Jail to the custody of Indiana Department of Corrections, or IDOC, for safekeeping. The court, being duly advised, finds that the defendant is an inmate awaiting trial and is in imminent danger of serious bodily injury or death, or represents a substantial threat to the safety of others. This finding is not predicated on any acts or alleged acts of the defendant since arrest, rather a toxic and harmful instance of public information about defendant and this case. Remember the bloodlust? So in general, this court has 30 days to rule on any motion that is filed by a party in any case. Yet, concurrent to the actual case naturally occurring, this judicial officer keeps getting direct requests from non-parties for public information, claiming that this officer has 7 days or 1 day when handed delivered to respond to the request or face litigation. While this officer is responsible for the entirety of the circuit court docket, it attempts to ignore the maelstrom of interest from the public. It is known that YouTube already hosts content regarding family members of the judicial officers, including photos. So he's talking about the photos that were put out by him. But what a lot of people don't understand is that he and his wife were both politicians. They're both extremely public figures. So this looks like a load of shit when you read it. The public's bloodlust for information before it exists is extremely dangerous. All public servants administering this action do not feel safe and are not protected. The Carroll County Sheriff has limited resources to conduct its base operations, let alone any duties mandated by the Supreme Court. All defendants and all actions are presumed innocent. All public information will be available the second it exists. None of the family members of public servants are part of this action. All of the public servants are simply people doing their jobs. Most of the public servants are woefully underpaid. Yikes. Most of the public's interests consist of people attempting to raise their status or profit financially. When the public peddles misinformation with reckless abandon, we are all not safe. Well, this dude is basically a politician. At one point, he was running for some kind of office. I believe he and his wife. As far as the public's desire to learn about access to court records, that educational effort cannot be by this officer educating each individual. Ad hoc, whenever they choose to seek public information, these inquiries are inherently disruptive to the operations of the court, as they are wholly outside the operation of the court. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, does he have something against freedom of information? As a branch of the Supreme Court, any request for public information about this action should be directed to whomever is the public information coordinator for the courts in general, if there is not such a position or state may need one. My thing is, if he feels this way, he should not have been the one to sign off on the probable cause affidavit. He shouldn't have signed anything. He should have stepped aside before that happened. A defendant indicated at an initial hearing an intention to hire private counsel. Defendant is reminded that he must retain counsel within 20 days of the initial hearing because there are deadlines for filing motions and raising defenses. And if those deadlines are missed, the legal issues and defenses that could have been raised will be waived or given up. If the defendant is unable to retain counsel of his choosing due to financial indigency, defendant is reminded that he is entitled to court-appointed counsel, and defendant will be examined upon request. So I think we got a couple more here. Okay, so here's the recusal. So I don't understand why Benjamin Diener made all of these decisions and then recused himself after. Like, you shouldn't have made any of those decisions if you're just going to step away, after setting the ball in motion. That seems absurd. Order of recusal and certification to the Indiana Supreme Court for selection of a special judge outside of Carroll County. The judge of Carroll Circuit Court has determined that the particular circumstances within the underlying case warrant recusal and dictate that a special judge be appointed in this case. The court hereby recuses itself. And then, of course, we have this letter by Richard Allen, November 9th. So he told the court that he was going to go ahead and get his own attorney. But I think after reaching out to a few just for even a consultation or that initial interview, he finally realized, how much it was really going to cost, that it would not be possible. In the cause listed above, I, Richard M. Allen, hereby throw myself at the mercy of the court. I am begging to be provided with legal assistance in the public defender or whatever help is available. At my initial hearing on October 28th, 2022, I asked to find representation for myself. However, at the time, I had no clue how expensive it would be just to talk to someone. I also did not realize what my wife and his immediate financial situation was going to be. We have both been forced to immediately abandon employment, myself due to incarceration, and my wife for her personal safety. Remember, she worked at a vet clinic that was just outside of town. She's had to abandon our house for her own safety. What little reserve there is will fail to even maintain the original residence. Again, I throw myself at the mercy of the court. Please provide me whatever assistance you may. Thank you for your time in this most urgent matter. And then also I have a clip here from something that Barb MacDonald put out. This is a short clip. It's about 30 seconds. This is David Yoder, the guy who lived next door to Richard Allen in Mexico. If you guys want to go, I recommend you guys go watch the full video. I think it's on Court TV. It's very informative, regardless of how you feel about Barbara MacDonald. The link is in the description.
That's where Ricky Allen lived, over there in that yellow house, early on.
So that's his house there in Mexico. And it looks like David Yoder has nothing but nice things to say about Richard Allen.
I think when he first got married, they moved in there, if I remember right. Very, very nice, very respectable young man. I mean, always has been. Yeah, my name is David Yoder, and
But notice he also, the sources that I've developed that knew and grew up with Richard Allen and went to school with him, they all tell me the same thing, that he's extremely quiet. We're going to hear David Yoder here say the same thing.
Knew Ricky his entire life. He is a very loyal dog. He's a quiet kind of. He's
quiet,
very polite. Always has been respectful to me. He'll go out of his way to say hi. Just to say hello to me.
So, very interesting to hear from those that grew up near Richard Allen. Also, I think I have something here from Kyla Russell and then Channel 22, and then we'll get out of here.
Here at the Allen County Courthouse, all 12 jurors were decided. 2 alternate positions were also picked. That leaves 2 alternate positions still left to be decided. Of the 14 that have been chosen, 8 of them are women and 6 of them are men. Those that are on the jury panel will be tasked with the decision of whether Richard Allen murdered Carroll County teens Abby Williams and Libby German. Special Judge Francis Gohl was aiming to question 100 potential jurors. Only half had been questioned. The jurors' jobs range from all over. One is a school counselor, one is a nurse, and one works with kids. At least 2 of the chosen jurors have a family member that currently works in law enforcement or has worked in law enforcement in the past. Before the jurors were picked, Judge Gohl asked the 50 potential jurors in the room if they had heard about the case. About 65% of them raised their hand to say yes. When asked whether they can set aside any bias they may have, most said they would be able to. At least 4 potential jurors said they would not be able to put those thoughts aside and had
Yeah, at least they're being honest. I like that.
made up their mind. Richard Allen is accused of murdering Carroll County teens Abby Williams and Libby German in February of 2017. He was arrested in the fall of 2022. We confirmed the jury will be sequestered. That means every chosen juror will be taken 100 miles away to Carroll County for the trial. They'll stay in a hotel and have no contact with the outside world for at least a month. Many potential jurors said they would struggle mentally and financially. Richard Allen was also in court. His hands were not bound to his chest, and he was wearing a simple button-down shirt. He took notes and nodded at potential jurors as they were questioned. The session also gave...
So I wanted to show that video because Kyla Russell here, she kind of provided us some inside information about what he was wearing, what he looked like, how he was interacting with the jury, and apparently he was nodding and making eye contact with them. So I found that interesting. We're going to catch up on the chat and then get out of here. David Arthur, good to see you. As much time and investigation you have spent on this case over the years, you should be in Delphi. I agree. Probably cost me about $2,000. Just don't have that kind of money laying around. Lady, I live in Indiana. The state is turning the old railroad right of ways into bike trails. That's nice. I had a private drive with gates. People lifted the gates off and would park on my bridge. Yeah, fuck that. That pissed me off. So I get it, you know, that Brad Weber's upset that people are trespassing. But it's really weird because there's been 2 separate occasions where Brad kind of trapped trespassers, and they were all women. Bill from Beyond Delphi Timeline, he was confronted by Brad prior to him going on his property. And once he actually went on his property, Brad Weber didn't even approach him. So he seems to have an issue with women. Hey, Audra, good to see you. I think I have a video of his gate. Hold on. Let me see if I have quick access to that. Maybe, maybe not. It's on my YouTube channel, so if you guys want to go watch it, it's a comparison. I don't think I have it handy. But yeah, I do have a video of him actually walking, and it's an identical match. Even the way he flips his left foot out, it's a perfect match for his gait. Thanks, Rain Dancer. Always good to see you. Good to see you, Scarlett. So we're going to start winding down. I'm just going to catch up on your guys' comments, and then we'll bounce on out. Miracle Hearts, welcome in. Thank you, V. That's photoshopped. Squeaky. I photoshopped that. That's his mugshot. And then I put his head on and some other guy wearing a collared shirt. Have a great day, Lady Monet. Have a great Tuesday. Thanks for hanging out with us today and engaging in the chat. I appreciate you. Miracle Hearts. I wonder if Murder Sheet spent the night out there. Laugh out loud. They always first in line. They're getting the scoop. Them and Russ McQuaid. I call that urban camping. Yep. All they've mentioned is that the hair does not match Richard Allen. But part of the defense's narrative is that Richard Allen couldn't have done this alone. So wouldn't it make sense that they found DNA belonging to somebody else or another suspect? Because the prosecution plans to prove that he had something to do with this. I don't know, Miracle Hearts. I don't know if they get to go home. I don't think they should be able to. Like, if they're selected, they should be kind of cut off from the world right at that point, because people like us were reading all these new documents. For instance, the state's motion about the sketches. Like, the jury shouldn't even be hearing that. And then the IPAS settlement, the jury shouldn't even be hearing anything about that. Like, this is all private stuff that's supposed to be kept away from the jury. So hopefully they're being, I guess, confined, so to speak. Or at least their social media access limited. Yeah, that's a good point, V. Everybody's looking for a reason, right? A good reason. There's no such thing as a good reason. I mean, even war, right? Isn't a good reason. But it is a reason. No, he didn't get a settlement. Somebody did. Hey, BN Mama, what's up? Good to see you. Oh, yeah, you're just catching us at the tail end. I'm actually going to zip on down. Thank you, Farmer. So I want to give a big shout out to those of you who sponsored the live stream today. Metal Mama Michelle, Boston Christian, all of my members, mods, for all your hard work, and those of you who continue to donate to my Cash App. And I found out yesterday that I have a Venmo. So if you guys want to help out that way, it is up and running, and it's at Sleuth Intuition. So big shout out to all of you. And I'll see you again tomorrow around the same time. And if I missed any of your comments or anybody, I do apologize. But thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting my channel. And I will catch you on the flip side. Peace.